For most beer styles, fresh is best, especially for those hazy boys we all know and love. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can keep your beer fresher for longer with oxygen-free transfers. Whether you've got an advanced beer setup or a more basic setup, we'll talk about how you can exclude oxygen from your packaging of your beer, whether to a keg or a bottle, to keep your beer fresher for longer. Stay tuned. So we're going to start with a keg full of sanitizer. This ensures that your keg is clean, and as you'll see later, we use this method to make sure that we haven't got any oxygen in our keg or in our vessels that we're transferring into those bottles that we're going to fill later with beer. So we'll just fill this up. Now we've got that filled with sanitizer, we're going to put our lid on, and now we know that there's no oxygen in that keg whatsoever. You want to do this before you start any sort of transfer to a keg to make sure that it's only your beer and carbon dioxide in there, no oxygen whatsoever. Now we're going to add some pressure to this keg so that we can transfer our sanitizers to our bottles to sterilize them. To do this, I've got a carb cap with a length of silicone attached to it. As you can see, this silicone reaches right down to the bottom of my bottle. So you'll see why that's important in just a moment. Something else we're also going to use in this video, I've got another silicone tube with liquid disconnects on both ends. So I'm going to attach one of these disconnects to our keg. I'm going to leak that so that I make sure there's no oxygen in that line. There we go. And then I'm going to attach this to the carb cap and let my bottle fill up with sanitizer. Now I'll just loosen that to let the bottle completely fill. Again, we're doing this so that there's no oxygen left in our bottle. Coming out the end. Now we have a bottle completely filled with sanitizer, and we know that there's no oxygen in there. I'm doing the same thing to a second bottle now. Just loosen that off. You'll notice that if it comes out slowly under a bit of pressure there, the sanitizer doesn't foam up. Same with the beer, when you're transferring under pressure, it won't foam up, which is helpful for these bottling exercises. There we go. Completely filled now, and no oxygen in that bottle. Now the other device we're going to use is this T-piece with a carb cap attached to each end, and a silicone tube again attached so that it will fit down to the bottom of our bottle. This basically turns our bottle into a little keg so that we can put gas in through this disconnect to build pressure and push the sanitizer out through the top into another vessel just like you would with the spear of a keg. So that's what's going on here. So we're going to use this to get the sanitizer back out of our bottle without introducing any oxygen into our bottle. There we go, we're bleeding that sanitizer out of the bottle. As you can see, it's going up through the silicone tube, out the top and into my container below. Make sure we get every last drop out. Excellent. So now we have a bottle filled with carbon dioxide and no oxygen. Now I'm going to change my disconnects over so that I can sanitize this. This is what I'm going to use to get the beer out of my fermenter and into the bottle we've just purged with CO2. We've got a liquid disconnect which travels down here. There's then a reducer so that I can get the size of silicon that's going to attach to my fermenter. But before I use this to transfer my beer, I want to make sure that this is sanitized. So we're going to run sanitizer through this transfer line. While we're waiting for this keg to empty, I thought I might take this opportunity to invite you to our pub's homebrew club meeting. We meet on the third Tuesday of every month, and I hope to see you there. And if you're not in our area in North Brisbane, why not check out what local clubs are operating in your area? So once we've emptied our keg of sanitizer, we have a keg completely filled with CO2 and no oxygen, 2 PET bottles, both completely filled with CO2 and no oxygen, and we have sanitized our beer lines ready to transfer beer into our vessels. Now you can use one of these fancy pressure transfer kits if you've got one or you've got a fermenter to do it, but today I'm going to show you a bit more of a ghetto method so that you can do it without one of these bits of fancy kit. So we have here our keg that's been completely purged of carbon dioxide, and I've also got a gas disconnect and a silicone hose that I'll connect to the gas disconnect of the keg and into the airlock of my fermenter. And the idea is that as this keg fills with the beer from the fermenter, the carbon dioxide will go through the disconnect, through the silicone tube, and replace the beer in the fermenter with carbon dioxide. I'm going to remove the airlock. I'll leave the bung in place. I'm going to put this in to the bung. It's not very tight, but it gives you the idea. Now if I come back a little bit and zoom out, you can see the full picture here. Keg at the bottom, gas is going to go and purge that fermenter with CO2 in place of the beer. As I'm sure you all notice, the gas disconnect I use has a check valve, which means the gas can only flow in this direction, not in this direction, which is what we want it to do in this instance. So I wanted to flag that for two reasons, so you can all have a bit of a giggle, but also to remind you, don't be a muppet like me. Use a gas disconnect that does not have a check valve in it. Otherwise, this technique won't work, because we are relying on the gas leaving the keg in this direction and going into the airlock in the fermenter to replace the beer that is going down into the keg. So I'm going to sanitize my spigot at the bottom of the fermenter. I'm going to connect this liquid hose to the keg, which is still holding some pressure. So that is going to purge this line with CO2. You'll hear this as it goes, as I get connected here. Right. I'm going to move that up here. I'm going to connect my spundy to the gas disconnect of our keg. And open it up completely so that the beer can flow without any pressure. You don't need to do this if you've already got your gas disconnect connected to your keg with the silicone hose leading back into the airlock of your fermenter. The spundy is just another way to let the gas out of your keg so that it can fill with beer. Another device I often use when filling my kegs is this little doohickey from Kegland. It allows gas to escape out the gas post through here. But once the liquid reaches the height of the gas post and the liquid starts being poured out, the idea is that this little ball here floats to the top of the chamber and plugs the hole so that no beer escapes. It doesn't always work, but it's a neat idea. Now that our keg's filled and we've got some beer on the floor, we're going to fill our bottle. So what we're going to do is put our spundy valve on this connector here to let out the excess CO2 out of the bottle. Now that that's coming out, we can take the ball lock disconnect from the fermenter and connect it in exactly the same way as we did with the keg. Put on there. And as we let the pressure out of that bottle, we gravity fill from the fermenter. Okay, so technique number 3 for an oxygen-free transfer of our beer. I have my bottle that I've purged with CO2 earlier, and again, these two liquid connects joined at either end by a silicone hose. To transfer the beer from the keg, that on that end, and I'll connect the other liquid disconnect to the keg, and off we go. We're getting a bit of foam because that's come out quite quick at the start. So just loosen it off a little. Let it settle down. Now loosen the carb cap slightly to allow some gas to escape while still retaining some pressure inside the bottle so that the beer doesn't foam too much. Fill that up, cap on foam. Lovely. Done. There's our bottle filled straight from the keg, oxygen free and pressurized. So now you know how to keep your beer fresher for longer. Maybe you want to enter a competition and you want some of that delicious hazy from the keg into the bottle without compromising its freshness. Now you know how to do that. Maybe you want to take a bottle so you can get a sample off your keg without waiting for the whole keg to carbonate. Now you can do that. And of course you know how to transfer fresh, oxygen-free beer from your fermenter to your keg. Now if you enjoyed this video, why not consider giving us a like, a subscribe, and click the bell for more content. And if you've enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy this clip which discusses entry-level PET fermenters and uni tanks, which are perfect for oxygen-free pressure transfers.